Omar Barada has said that Manchester United are going to win the league by 2028. I am telling you this. We need to start questioning these people. We need to start questioning these people's sanity. We need to start questioning these people's intelligence, because this is absolutely ludicrous. Manchester United have crashed out of the FA Cup third round for only the third time in 42 years. Manchester United, one of the proudest institutions of football in this land, and yet they are going through what can only be described as an absolute crisis. They have been launched out of the FA Cup at the first hurdle, off the back of being launched out of the League Cup at the first hurdle. Brighton, olaying passes at Old Trafford. What has gone wrong with the world? You know, when you try and think, where is the world broken? If you need something to represent the world being broken, Brighton and Hove Albion, the boys of the Withdean, Bobby Zamora is their greatest ever player. They are olaying at Old Trafford. That represents the world being broken. It is absolutely ludicrous. Off the back of Grimsby, the home of battered cod, launching Manchester United out of the League Cup. Manchester United will now not win European silverware this year because they are out of it. They will not win domestic cup competitions this year because they are out of it. They will not win the Premier League title because they are out of it. This is the earliest that Manchester United have officially not been able to win any silverware in a season for 54 years. And this is all under the tutelage and the wily, clever eye. An eye full of nous and know-how. The cleverest people in the room, INEOS. This is under their stewardship. You know, we could talk about Malcolm Glazer. We could talk about the Glazer ownership. We could talk about the entire Glazer regime and how it did Manchester United dirty, how it ruined a proud institution, how it undermined the great work that was done by Sir Alex Ferguson, and how it dragged that great reputation through the mud. But this is now INEOS. This is now Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Mr. Manchester himself is back. That's what he's supposed to be, isn't he? He's supposed to be the Mancunian who understands Manchester United, and he was going to guide the club back to glory. And he's not the man for the job. I think now it's got to the stage where this is no longer a footballing matter. Look, there are some terrible people involved in a footballing capacity. We can talk about whether Manuel Ugarte should be a Manchester United player, and the answer is obviously not. We can talk about the fact that Manuel Ugarte being a Manchester United player does damage to the brand. Of course it does. As does Dalot. I mean, there are countless Manchester United individual players that are just not good enough to be at the club. But this is bigger than that now. This is just now clearly so much more vast. They are broken. And I just can't really believe it. I just can't believe it. They have been launched out of 2 cup competitions at the earliest point. It's appalling. And do you know what needs to happen? I feel like we almost need to recalibrate. Because INEOS, under Ratcliffe, was supposed to change everything. And it just hasn't. These are not the right people in charge. It's a travesty what is happening to that once great club. And I say that with genuine concern in a weird way. Because I love football. I love football in this country. I love what football in this country represents. I love the Premier League. And I therefore love the institutions that make the Premier League brilliant. I don't want Manchester United to succeed. I want them to fail, desperately fail. But I want them to fail as Manchester United. I want them to be themselves and get beat. I want them to be the Manchester United of 07 and lose to us in a cup final, Didier Drogba. I want to beat that Manchester United team. I want to beat a Manchester United team full of superstars, led by the best, owned by the... not necessarily the best, but owned by people who had the interests of the club at heart. Owned by the people that wanted to drive Manchester United to silverware. And I would extend the same courtesy that I'm saying here about Manchester United to West Ham United. West Ham United are a huge rival of Chelsea. A huge rival of ours. I've had some terrible times at Upton Park. Hated going there. When you came out of that away end and you had to walk past that pub on the way to Plaistow Station. Horrible. Really horrible. And I don't want West Ham to succeed. I didn't want them to win that cup when they won in Europe and they started pretending they were European champions. But I want them to exist. And when it becomes a fight between GSB and West Ham United season ticket holders who had season tickets in the Bobby Moore stand or the Chicken Run, I will back the fans. When it becomes a fight between Daniel Levy and Tottenham season ticket holders from the shelf side, I will back those Tottenham season ticket holders. And when it becomes a fight between INEOS, Barada, Ratcliffe, And the Stretford end, I will back the Stretford end. I just can't believe it. But you know what? The clues were there. The clues were there about Ratcliffe. Like, he played that whole Mancunian card and he had a Chelsea season ticket. How can you possibly play that whole Mancunian thing? Say that you're a Manchester boy. Say that you're a Manchester United fan. But have a season ticket at Stamford Bridge. How can you possibly be that? And the clues were there bigger than that. The clues were there when he tried to make the British government build him, who is Britain's richest man, a billionaire, a tax-exiled billionaire, build them a new stadium. A private company like Manchester United was trying to coerce the government into building them a stadium. The clues were there with Ratcliffe. And it is now getting to the stage where we have to stop thinking about Manchester United as a big club. Now, anyone that has ever watched me talk about football will know quite how Brighton fans don't like me. Brentford fans don't like me. Not many football fans like me, but those fans in particular really don't like me because I will always acknowledge the true brilliance and prestige of Manchester United, of Liverpool, of Arsenal, reluctantly. These things matter. And Manchester United, I've always argued, are one of the biggest clubs in Europe, one of the biggest draws in Europe, one of the most prestigious clubs in Europe. And I, perhaps now, looking back, have made a fool of myself when I was passionately arguing that when Jack Grealish was going to leave Aston Villa, that Manchester United is the club that he would want to go to. I was constantly saying nobody would want to sign for Man City over Manchester United. There is nothing that can happen to make Manchester United less appealing than Manchester City. Manchester City are always going to be the smaller club. They're always going to be the more inferior club. They're always going to be the more insignificant club. And I'm wrong, aren't I? This is almost like a moment of reckoning where I've had to realise that what I've constantly been saying about who Manchester United are, what Manchester United represent, it is no more. It is no more. Like, I will always say that they're bigger than City. But these things must move. It must be malleable. It must evolve. And Manchester United now are at their lowest ebb. And Manchester City very recently won 4 league titles in a row, including a treble. At what point do we have to acknowledge that the young footballers coming through today will only really know Manchester United as a failed institution? If you are 20 now, you don't really know Manchester United as a winning machine the way I do. Like, I remember Mark Hughes scoring a volley against Oldham to propel them into the FA Cup final against us, and I was broken-hearted because I effectively knew, learning from those around me, my dad and people, that we weren't going to beat them because they were Manchester United. We needed Oldham to win that game. Nobody's scared of Man United like that anymore. Honestly, Mark Hughes scored a volley for Man United. It was only an equaliser against Oldham. It was only an equaliser. Took the game to a replay. And I was watching the game with a lot of Chelsea fans, all older than me, and the mood sunk because it meant that we were going to play the great Manchester United at Wembley, which meant we were not going to win the cup. We hadn't won a trophy for, at the time, 24 years? 23 years? And we thought we could end it, and we couldn't, because we knew that we were playing Manchester United. And Sir Alex Ferguson said that Manchester City would never be bigger than Manchester United in his lifetime. I've said that even if Manchester City were to win the league every year for 10 years in a row, they will never eclipse Manchester United. And then you're looking at Manchester United, you're looking at the players playing for Manchester United, you're looking at the state of Manchester United, you're looking at the perilous position that they are in, you're looking at the Stretford end, an amazing end, what it represents. Manchester United fans are amazing for unilaterally backing their team, almost irrespective of anything. On some definition of being a football fan, it's nonsense, but I admire it. It is that total partisan, aggressive, unilateral support that comes from the Manchester United fans to the team, from the Manchester United fans to the manager, irrespective of whether the manager is good or not, irrespective of whether the players are good enough to wear the famous badge on their heart or not. And even those Manchester United fans that adopt that mentality are now booing their team off. It is a club that is unrecognisable to me. And Sir Alex Ferguson saying that City will never be bigger in his lifetime. Of course, that's true on one definition. United as a brand are bigger. But as a football team? As a football entity? Do they have more fans? Absolutely. Do they have a more historic past? Absolutely. Is their brand more recognisable? Absolutely. But for the here and now, Manchester United are no more. And I kind of say this with regret. And you know Sir Alex Ferguson saying that, the noisy neighbours, and him saying that they will never be bigger. I wonder what he's saying. He's sitting in the stands now watching Manchester United play. He's watching Manchester United play. They have no European football. They're out of both domestic cups. Brighton have played them off the park. And they currently don't really have a manager. What must Sir Alex Ferguson be thinking? Like, United now need to appoint the next man. It's possibly Carrick. It's probably Solskjaer. And I tell you what, they need to get it right. My God, they need to get it right. They're going to play 40 games this season. It's the lowest that they've played since 1915. Over 100 years ago. It's just insane how bad they are. And I just can't believe what's happened. I just can't believe what's happened under Ratcliffe, sacking the wrong people, cutting back in the wrong departments, splurging money where it didn't need to be splurged, sacking people who deserve their jobs. And I tell you what, I thought Amorim was a joke. In fact, Amorim was a joke. Let's not rewrite history. But the problems run so much deeper than that. Like, Ratcliffe and Wilcox both pushing Amorim to play 4 at the back. The fans pushing Amorim to play Kobe Mainoo. They all got what they wanted. 4 at the back today. Kobe Mainoo in the starting lineup today. And they get beat 2-1 at home by Brighton. They're saying that they're not going to buy anyone. No transfers this window. And apparently that is what put Ruben Amorim on collision course with Jason Wilcox. The fact that they weren't going to buy any more players when their squad clearly needs new players. Like, you could argue both ways. Wilcox could say to Amorim, regardless of how bad the players are, regardless of what players you think you need, these performances are not good enough, and that's true. Like, however lacking you think the Manchester United squad is, it's still good enough to beat. It's still good enough to beat Grimsby. Of course it is. So Wilcox would have had a point. But then Amorim could easily say, I have to play Agate. And he's not good enough. So it is just a mess. And I'll tell you what now. This squad, this team, I like Solskjaer, and I think that his reputation was cruelly undone. Like, he didn't do a bad job. Wasn't he the only Manchester United manager to finish in the Champions League spots back-to-back seasons since Fergie? You know, it wasn't as bad as people like to make out. It didn't go well at the end. Of course it didn't. It capitulated. But it wasn't as bad as people like to make out. But they just can't ignore what they're seeing in front of them. They do not have a team capable of qualifying for the Champions League. And listen, bringing in a former player on an interim basis, it won't change the players. It can change the feeling. And it will unify the fans. It will make the Stretford end sing in full voice. It will have an impact. But it just feels like it's one crisis after another with Manchester United. It feels like the club hit rock bottom every week. It feels like there is a new low. You go, well, it can't get any worse than this, Grimsby. And you go, oh, it can. It can. Yeah, it's terrible. It really is terrible. It feels like this season is the moment where we all have to acknowledge that Manchester United, of course, can get back to their former reputation and their former glory. But until they do, we need to not see them in that light. I'm effectively telling myself here, by the way, this is therapy. I'm sure you've been saying it for ages. But I would always go, like, you know, when I look at fixtures, or if I'm doing an accumulator or something, I look at it and I go, well, Man United will win this week. Manchester United are playing away at Newcastle. I go, Man United beat them. And they lose. And then Manchester United are playing at home Sunderland. I go, Manchester United beat them. And they lose. Manchester United are playing away at Wolves. They've got to beat them. I just got to redefine it. People ask me at the beginning of the season, who do you think will finish in the top 4? I'm like, well, Man United. I've been conditioned. But who do you think win the Cup? Man United have a chance. Man United are in the Champions League. How do you think they'll get on? I'll tell you what, you don't ever want to write Man United off. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And Omar Barada saying they're going to win the league in, 2028? Joker. Unreal. Honestly, I'm shocked. 40 games for Man United this season. The great Manchester United. Absolutely unreal. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. In a bit.